Good evening. What's going on there, folks? Earthmaster here on this beautiful Monday evening, August 23rd, 2021, about 6:50 p.m. West Coast time. The latest quake on the globe is a 2.7 around the Puerto Rico area. It looks like quite a bit of movement up and down the North American continent. You can see that well defined in all of this earthquake activity stretching down past Mexico. South America, relatively quiet. We have seen an uptick in earthquake activity on this side of the plate as well. Let's go ahead and check out the latest information here from the USGS folks and their map. Let's see if I can get this going here. There we go. Alrighty, clicked the wrong window. It's been a long day, let me tell you. So looking at the USGS map here over the last 24 hours. And this is the all magnitudes, at least for the U.S. Territories and states. Internationally, about 4.0 and above. You can see the movement I was talking about out here along the western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, south of Japan. Seeing a little bit of deep, I'm talking about deep movement here in this area. 490 kilometers down into this trench area. And also some further deep movement down south here. Nothing major, but these are some majorly deep quakes at the 4.0 magnitude. Looks like 4.7, 4.6 in this area. So kind of watching that very closely. We have seen an increase in activity, as I mentioned, down through parts of Mexico over here, off the coast, into Southern California region, where we have a new swarm of earthquakes striking the Salton Sea region. This is the area I visited a couple months ago when they were having a pretty good sizable swarm. I will never do that again. It's not an area that I like to visit at all. At least I can say I did it one time, right? That's it. But I will never go back down there, unless there's like a major volcanic eruption. Then of course I'll go down there. But a lot of activity striking in an area where we've seen that swarming happen in the past. This all kind of got kicked off. There was a few prior quakes to this 4.0, but a 4.0 right here at 7.2 kilometers kind of kicked off this swarm. And I can't really say this is, if you want to call it aftershock activity, you're welcome to, but this is all, if anything, I believe a swarm, a new swarm here at the Salton Sea area. We've seen it in the past. All it takes sometimes is a moderate magnitude quake to get it going. And swarms, aftershocks, it doesn't matter. All those are somewhat related to one another because of what does it mean? What does it mean when there's aftershocks and swarms? It's increase in pressure. Obviously, it's not a decrease in pressure, increase in pressure in the Southern California area. Looking pretty active along the San Jacinto Fault area as well. Looking at the swarm real quick, let's get some numbers. Looking at, far as the largest magnitude, 4.0, 36 earthquakes in this swarm so far. I don't see any over the last hour, but like I say, these things come and go. We'll see if this thing continues to swarm overnight or not. Getting back over here to the northwest, San Jacinto Fault area, getting a little bit of activity kicking up, a little bit more active than normal, and also up here around the San Andreas Fault area, the locked section, better known as the Sleeping Giant, the big one. No doubt will start up here somewhere and zip its way down south in a pretty significant 8.1 magnitude quake someday, or larger. Who knows? We'll see. Desert Hot Springs sits over here to the east. A couple small microquakes right around this area of the San Andreas Fault. Both sides. I will note that. The Ridgecrest area still seeing some activity. Aftershock sequences there. Long Valley Supervolcano relatively quiet for now. And the Antelope Valley area getting in on a little bit more heightened earthquake activity today, right? Aftershocks will increase when there's pressure increase in the region. That's a fact. 35 earthquakes, or aftershocks, if you will, in this region. Nothing significant, but definitely a sign of further pressure, not only in that area, but also out in the Nevada desert out here northwest of Tonopah, in that little area around the Candelaria Hills. I remember I was out here last year running around following that 6.0 earthquake that struck. Pretty, well, I can't say it's cool out there. There's really nothing out there. A lot of desert, a major solar plant out there, a solar farm. But that was over here northwest of Tonopah. But man, there's not a whole lot out there at all. Pretty deserty. Into the Bay Area, San Francisco. What's going on out there in the Bay Area? The city that never sleeps, right? 1.8 off the coast near Pacifica, and another 1.8 northeast of there a little bit by about maybe a mile. Another 1.8 at about 6.4 kilometers. Pretty close to the San Andreas Fault System that runs up here, the major plate boundary. Also some activity down here south outside of the concrete jungle of the Bay Area. Little couple small microquakes near Seven Trees, California, 2.0 and at 1.8 it looks like. Relatively shallow earthquake activity. Working our way up north, check out the Cascades. We're getting quite a bit of movement up here through the Cascades. Very obvious activity, including some activity up around Mount Baker. We got Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood. Quite a few volcanoes showing some activity. Not volcanic in nature, but definitely some microquake, earthquake activity over the last 24 hours. Haven't seen a whole lot in recent times as far as Mount Baker goes. This activity that's kind of popped up here. This was originally, there was a 2.8 that kind of struck near Hamilton. That was originally a 3.2, I believe, or a 3.5. It was downgraded by the USGS. And it's a pretty shallow earthquake. It's really shallow. A lot of these earthquakes here near Mount Baker is really shallow. So we're kind of watching that. Mount Baker, a little bit of information on Mount Baker. Last erupted, looks like September 7th to the 27th of November 1880, according to Wikipedia here. That's the last eruption. Quite a bit of information here on the Mount Baker volcano in Washington. If you want to check that out, I would suggest going over there for some pretty heavy info on that area. But looking at this map here, Mount Baker sits up here. It's a good, it's a good, oh man, I don't know, 10 miles or so from Mount Baker. So can't really say it's really related, but we're definitely keeping an eye on that area. Seattle. Movement here along the Seattle fault system has looks like it's calmed down a little. Haven't seen that wide swath of activity that we were kind of watching here over the past few days. You can see that on the 7 days all magnitude map here. Quite a bit of movement east to west, west to east, and that's kind of scary. You need to be very careful up there in Seattle. This fault very capable of producing a pretty good sized earthquake for the folks in the Pacific Northwest. And that's aside from the Cascadia threat. So the all magnitudes here, just a few earthquakes, or a couple I should say, south of Seattle, off of, well, almost on the Seattle fault system, and a little earthquake southeast of North Bend. I don't see any specific fault systems out there, but there's mountains, no doubt fault systems out there, just not listed on this map. Let's go over here to the Intermountain West region, where we're seeing continued earthquake activity ramping up into Idaho, into Montana, down through Salt Lake City or Utah area. Kind of see this area of almost like a circular type pattern, or at least maybe a half moon type deal. A lot of movement here into the Intermountain West region. North American and Pacific plate interacting. They're creating that movement, the earthquakes that is, into Texas as well, a little ramping up near Pecos. Oklahoma getting in on quite a bit of action today. Quinton, Oklahoma City, east of Enid, Stillwater region getting in on some action as well. I wonder what's out there. Should we see if there's any weak areas in the crust? Let's go ahead and check that out. Let's see if I can bring that up real quick on the satellite view. Of course, Oklahoma, beautiful state. I love Oklahoma, no doubt. Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, I love it. Looking at least on this map, it doesn't really go in too far, does it? Not for sure why. I don't see any significant injection wells or any type of pumping operations out there in this area of Oklahoma. But it doesn't mean there isn't any. For some reason, it doesn't seem like this map is zooming in as close as it normally does. So a little odd. Nonetheless, couple microquakes striking out there around the 5 to almost 6 kilometer range. Let's go ahead and check out the rest of the area, Oklahoma. Here's that one north of Oklahoma City, a little 2.0 near Edmond. The New Madrid fault system, relatively quiet for now. It's possible we could see an increase in earthquake activity here, especially since all the activity on the west is picking up. Intermountain West, Texas, Oklahoma, and part of the Appalachian Mountains, all getting in on a little bit of earthquake movement. I wouldn't doubt if we see some further microquakes kicking up here in the New Madrid area. Looking at these quakes over here towards the east, a couple small microquakes, folks. Nothing going on, nothing major, right? Relatively shallow. 1.8, the largest in that little cluster of quakes out there in the eastern part of the country. Puerto Rico getting in on some action as well. A little bit of earthquake movement near the Puerto Rico Trench. 3.9 striking down there at 63 kilometers. And of course, some movement off the coast here of the southwest area. Quite a few, couple twos, couple threes, I should say. Largest at 3.4 in that area. And what else we got for the South Sandwich Islands? Looks like things have kind of calmed down, right? Every area, right, where the 8.1 and the 7.5 struck are all very quiet, at least in the 4.0 threshold. I'm sure there's more than what's being reported here by the USGS, but at least on this map, things have dropped off dramatically. But down here, where we've seen the 7.2 earthquake, that was yesterday, right? Well, they downgraded it to 7.1, but still within this area. We're looking at a little bit of aftershock sequences. It's pretty close to that 7.1. 5.2 looks to be the largest here in this area. Most of the movement has completely disappeared. Kind of odd, but I would still watch this area very closely. Shooting towards the Pacific Northwest in the Cascadia subduction zone, we are seeing some movement in the northern end of that Cascadia, southwest of Seattle. This could have something to do with the earthquake activity we're seeing near Mount Baker. Of course, subduction, right, as the plate subducts underneath the North American plate and melts down there, further down from these tremors. Ultimately could stir up some volcanoes along the Cascade range. So definitely be on guard for that. There's some further movement in the northern Sacramento Valley area, southern end of the Cascadia, although things on the surface are relatively quiet when it comes to earthquake activity. Checking out the volcanic seismicity here at Mount Hood. We'll go ahead and see what they got going on there. A couple red circles, very small, indicating some, well, obviously some very small microquakes. Checking out the seismograph viewer on a Mount Hood volcano. Shows a little bit of seismic activity over the last couple hours. Looking at the last couple days, some of these quakes looks, what do you got here? 2.5. It's kind of hard to tell. You can't really tell all that well on some of these quakes here. I know well-defined earthquakes are going to kind of look like this, but I'm not 100% certain what this activity is here. Something weird. A couple splurts of I don't know what, but I'll keep an eye on that very closely. Let's see we can pick up a different station in that area. Maybe potentially up here. Well, let's go down here to the south. See what we got. Timberline, Oregon. There's some of that earthquake activity right there. Checking out yesterday's events. Still showing up there. It looks like some of that odd activity also showing up on this seismograph station. So I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. A little bit more detail. Mountain Hood. Let's see here. Let's check out Mount St. Helens on the volcanic scale. A couple small quakes right around the crater, right? Quite a bit, actually. See what we got in the 3-component broadband station. A little bit of movement there. Of course, this is pretty well jacked up. It's really at least the other map. Looking at let's go back over here. Looking at the last couple hours of today's activity, this earthquake activity, or at least this graph, is pretty well amped up. Meaning, it's turned up pretty loud, so it can pick up, sensitive light activity. And you can see that light activity showing up pretty significantly on that day. When you go back and look at yesterday's, though, there's a well-defined localized earthquake. Some of these may be distant earthquakes. Another small one. Another one there. If that's a 2.5, that is incredibly small. Can't even really... Can you guys see that? Where is it? So, yeah, definitely some activity taking place at these volcanoes along the Cascade. Mount Baker, go ahead and check that out. They don't have a whole lot of seismic graphs here. I don't think this one's active. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, well, that's like way beyond. I mean, you can't even see what's going on. Let's see if I can pick up a... Oh, shoot. Well, there's not a whole lot here, folks. That's not found. Let's check an ENN station. See if we can see what's going on out there around the Mount Baker area. That one's kind of... Well, it's visible, at least. There's a little earthquake right there, it looks like. But this is all pretty squashed out when it comes to picking up data. Come on. Yeah, they got that thing pretty well squashed out. So we'll keep an eye on it, folks. Yellowstone National Park. Let's scoot over there. Not a whole lot going on at the super volcano. Looks like wind events down here in this area of the park. Also over here, I'm not for sure what the wind speeds are, or even if there's thunderstorms and whatnot. But it's a really quick check. There in Yellowstone National Park, I see a severe thunderstorm warning. Well, that's not Yellowstone. Let's see here. I don't see a whole lot of activity around Yellowstone. Maybe some cloud buildup and whatnot. So that could be wind showing up all across the park. I don't believe that's volcanic in nature or earthquake activity. Little small microquakes popping off here in the northwest corner of the park. A couple of these well-defined spikes. But overall, Yellowstone pretty quiet. The sleeping giant, she sleeps, and that's good. We don't want to wake her up. We want her to sleep peacefully. Let's see what else we got here, folks. That's about it. There's just a lot of movement going on in the Southern California area, stretching down along the eastern part of the Pacific Plate. The South Sandwich Islands has gone quiet for the most part, except for the south. I would still be on guard in this area very closely for some further movement. And with all the deeper movement out here along the western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, no doubt deep movement adds to the surface pressure up here along the Japan area. So be on guard for potential further large-scale movement in that area. All right, folks, have a good night. Stay safe out there. We will chat you guys another time. Live stream is back up and running. For some oddball reason, it went down soon as I left my house earlier this morning. I had a full day of busy legal stuff going on. And sure enough, man, soon as I pulled out my driveway, I think I got a couple people letting me know that the stream went down. So I don't know what's going on. It's just some fishy stuff, a lot of fishy stuff going on right now. So all we can do is just move forward, continue to provide information out here, and I think we all need to be ready. Have a good night, folks. We'll chat you guys a little bit later on. Stay safe.